Welcome to Subject Soup. Why are India's farmers protesting again? The battle for agricultural rights has reignited, with thousands of farmers hitting the streets demanding minimum support price guarantees and fair policies. But what's really at stake? Let's break it down. Hey there. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of India to explore the ongoing farmer protests that have captured both national and global attention. These protests aren't just about farming, they're a significant battle for agricultural rights that speaks volumes about economic struggles and policy impacts. So, buckle up as we unpack the complexities of this movement. The spark of the 2024 protests lies in the persistent issues faced by Indian farmers, mainly from the states of Punjab and Haryana. These farmers are advocating strongly for the legal guarantee of minimum support prices for their crops, which they argue is crucial for their economic stability. The demand for MSP guarantee stems from fears that without it, they are left at the mercy of volatile market prices that often do not cover their costs of production. The protests have seen massive gatherings, drawing attention to the sheer number of individuals impacted by these policy gaps. The farmers argue that without a guaranteed price, they are unable to make predictable business decisions or investments, leading to a cycle of debt and financial instability. This economic pressure is compounded by increasing costs of inputs like seeds, fertilizers, and machinery, which are not matched by crop prices. Government responses have been a mix of conciliatory talks and harsh measures, including barricades and restrictions on gatherings. These responses have only fueled the determination of the protesters, who see the struggle for MSP as a fight for their survival. The protests are not just a demand for better prices, but also a call for respect and recognition of their fundamental role in feeding the nation. Support for the farmers has been widespread, including from other states and various sectors of society. This solidarity highlights the broad social and economic implications of agriculture in India. The movement is not just about the economic issues facing farmers, but also about social justice, equity, and sustainability in agriculture. The continuation of these protests signals a deep-seated frustration among farmers with the current agricultural policies. The government's challenge is to address these issues in a manner that is equitable and sustainable, ensuring that the backbone of India's agrarian economy, the farmers, are supported and that their livelihoods are secure. MSP is a critical factor in the ongoing protests. It is supposed to ensure that farmers do not have to sell their crops at a loss even if market prices fall below production costs. The demand for a comprehensive MSP that covers all crops is rooted in the need for a safety net that protects farmers against the unpredictable swings in the agriculture market. This year, the government proposed a targeted MSP scheme, promising to buy certain crops at MSP for 5 years. However, farmers argue that this does not go far enough to protect all farmers or all crops, leaving many still vulnerable. The selective nature of the current MSP policy has led to a lack of trust in government commitments, with farmers demanding a more inclusive and comprehensive approach. The negotiation of MSP rates is highly political, with various stakeholders including government agencies, farmer unions, and private sector players involved. This makes the establishment of MSP a complex issue that requires careful consideration of economic, social, and environmental factors. The farmers are pushing for these rates to be set transparently and scientifically to ensure fairness and sustainability. The impact of MSP on the broader economy is also significant. It affects food prices, inflation, and even international trade relationships. Therefore, the resolution of the MSP issue is not just critical for farmers but for the entire Indian economy. The discussions around MSP reflect broader debates about the role of government in regulating markets and supporting vulnerable sectors. Ultimately, the demand for an MSP guarantee is about ensuring that agriculture remains a viable livelihood for millions of Indians. It's about making sure that farmers, who put in significant labor and capital to feed the country, can do so without fearing for their financial future. It's a call for stability, equity, and sustainability in the agricultural sector. Small and marginal farmers, who constitute the majority of India's agricultural community, are particularly affected by current agricultural policies. These farmers often lack the bargaining power and the economies of scale that larger farmers might have, making them more susceptible to economic pressures. Government policies have historically favored large-scale agricultural operations through subsidies and support programs that are more accessible to larger farms. This has created a significant disparity in the agricultural sector, where small farmers find it increasingly difficult to compete. The protests are a call to address these imbalances and ensure more equitable policies. The challenges faced by small and marginal farmers are exacerbated by inadequate access to markets, technology, and credit. These limitations hinder their ability to improve productivity and profitability, trapping many in a cycle of poverty and debt. The protests have brought these issues to the forefront, demanding reforms that cater to the needs of all farmers, not just the big ones. In addition to economic policies, environmental and land use policies also disproportionately impact small farmers. Changes in land use regulations, water rights, and environmental conservation efforts often displace or disadvantage small farmers who may not have the resources to adapt or relocate. The protests are thus also a struggle for land rights and environmental justice. The government's response to these issues in the past has included the creation of various schemes intended to support small farmers. However, the effectiveness of these programs has been mixed, with many farmers still feeling left out. The current protests serve as a reminder that much more needs to be done to make India's agricultural policies more inclusive and supportive of small and marginal farmers. The 2020-21 farmer protests were a landmark event in India's agricultural history. They were sparked by the introduction of 3 new farm laws, which many farmers felt would leave them vulnerable to exploitation by large agribusinesses and reduce their income security. The widespread protests eventually led to the repeal of these laws, but the issues they highlighted remain unresolved. The connection between the previous protests and today's movement is direct and profound. Many of the same organizations and leaders involved in the earlier protests are active now, reflecting a continuity of purpose and persistence of grievances. The unresolved issues from the earlier protests have only become more pressing, leading to renewed mobilization. The 2020-21 protests also changed the landscape of farmer activism in India. They brought together a wide array of farmer organizations and activists from across the country, creating a more unified and powerful voice for farmers. This unity has carried over into the current protests, making them more organized and impactful. The earlier protests also had a significant impact on public and political awareness about the issues facing farmers. They led to increased media coverage and public discourse about agriculture policies, MSP, and the rights of farmers. This has set the stage for the current protests, providing a stronger platform and broader support for the farmers' demands. Today's movement is not just a repeat of the past, but an evolution of the struggle. It reflects both the enduring challenges faced by farmers and the lessons learned from previous activism. The farmers are not just revisiting old grievances, they are also adapting their strategies and demands in response to the changing political and economic environment. The economic impact of the farmer protests is significant. Agriculture is a central pillar of India's economy, contributing to GDP, employment, and trade. The disruption caused by protests can have wide-ranging effects on food prices, supply chains, and overall economic stability. The protests highlight the critical role of farmers in the economy and the need for policies that ensure their prosperity and stability. Politically, the protests are a major challenge for the government. They test the government's ability to manage discontent and balance competing interests. The response to the protests can affect the government's popularity and credibility, influencing electoral outcomes and policy directions. The protests also raise questions about the democratic process and the rights of citizens to protest and shape policy. The protests have also had a significant social impact, uniting farmers across various regions and communities. This unity is a powerful force for social change, challenging entrenched inequalities and advocating for a more just and equitable society. The solidarity shown by other sectors of society, including workers, students, and activists, underscores the widespread recognition of the legitimacy of the farmers' demands. Internationally, the protests have drawn attention to the challenges facing farmers globally. They have sparked discussions about agricultural policies, trade, and the rights of farmers worldwide. The international solidarity and coverage have put pressure on the Indian government and international bodies to consider more farmer-friendly policies. Ultimately, the ongoing farmer protests are about more than just agriculture. They are a reflection of broader economic, social, and political issues facing India today. They are a call for change that resonates with fundamental principles of fairness, justice, and sustainability. The resolution of these protests will have lasting implications for India's future, shaping the lives of millions and the health of the nation's democracy and economy. If you've been enjoying the content and finding it helpful or interesting, I'd love to have you join our community by subscribing to the channel. It's completely free and helps the channel grow so I can keep bringing you even more awesome content. No pressure, but your support means the world to me. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you.